All right, what is up, my peeps? Joshua Smith here with another GSD Mode Health and Fitness podcast. As always, joined with my good friend, business partner, and personal health and fitness mentor, Jim Brown. Jim, what's up, dude?
Just living out here, man, in Hurricane Alley. It's been an
Yeah,
interesting few weeks, but all good. We made it through another one.
yeah. So since the last time that we talked, man, you guys got hit. What was it? Is it Milton? I can't keep them all straight.
Yeah, real nerdy name Milton got us. But again, right after Helene came through and soaked everybody, and if you lived by the coast or on the water, you got flooded, got hammered, and then most of the people just got all their drywall removed, started getting flooring out. Some people had it going back in, and then here comes this other one, and same thing happened. Everybody got flooded and hit. But part of Florida life, I guess.
Yeah, because didn't I hear something like it had been like 123 years since like Tampa. I know you're outside of Tampa, but like Tampa, the city itself had like a direct hurricane hit or something like that.
Yeah, I think it's been a while. It's been a long time since a hit like that. And then, I'm kind of new. I'm used to seeing hurricanes come out over the Atlantic, and this one originated in the Gulf and then came a totally different way. And everybody thought that was weather manipulation or whatever harp they were punishing Florida for being Trump fans or so whatever the conspiracy was. But that was a weird storm, and I don't think I think I talked about that. Somebody had posted some data on it, but it was like early part of the 19th century, 1900s, where the last storm originated there and hit the area. So it's interesting, man. I didn't know that. I didn't know a storm could form down there. But that was pretty scary, man. That was headed right towards us. So
Yeah, dude. I mean, seeing the pictures that you texted me, I know we were talking off air about this, but dude, like, yeah, I couldn't tell where the lake that you live on began and where it ended. It was just like it looked like okay, your house and then lake. It was crazy.
yeah, the guy I was talking to my neighbor, and he's lived on this lake for 40 years, and he's like, well, I saw it close once to where the people stepped off of their patio and jumped in the canoe. So, we were almost there, and he said it was really close. But man, what a lesson! Um, we talk about me. I'm kind of paranoid. You try to be prepared too. We've talked about this stuff about can you survive without power for 2 weeks? Do you have enough food in the house to where you guys could survive without having to get food for 2 weeks? How do you have a way to get water for your family for 2 weeks? Something like that. Do you have enough gas? All that, and of course, me. I was ready. I was ready for the storm. I have a generator. It's not like one of those whole house ones, but I got a generator. I got it hooked up to the house. I can keep the freezers going and the fans and, just normal to survive and be okay for 2 weeks without power, 3 weeks. I got a way to get water. I got gas. I got extra gas. I got chainsaws. I'm ready to go pretty much. But man, seeing some of the destruction and how, frankly, how unprepared a lot of people were and the panic and it's crazy, man. But fortunately, we didn't really lose power for too long. But our neighborhood kind of has a special power grid because we're next to this city utility. So it's built a little bit different, is my understanding. But all around town, all around me, there's neighborhoods, and everybody was out without power, and so nobody has gas. The gas stations aren't open; they can't pump gas. And then there was limited gas supply, and you drive by a gas station and there's 40, 50 cars waiting to get gas. Like, dude, what the hell? You go into the store and there's nothing. Like the meat gone, everything's gone. There's fucking macaroni and shit, but everything that you would normally go in is gone. Milk, hamburger, breads, all that stuff that are the big staples. So it was pretty eye opening, dude. And there's, just to be prepared. So wherever you live, wherever you are, man, you should be prepared to take care of those things, especially if you have a family with kids and stuff, man. A way to get water, drinkable water, a way to have power, gas if you need to get out of here. I mean, we had friends, their family was trying to evacuate or whatever, and it took them 16 hours to get, up to Georgia because there were so many people trying to get out, and then you couldn't get gas. There was gas, gas was out all the way. I'm like, who? you don't take gas with you. I mean, how did you think this through? It just boggles my mind. But anyway, it's fragile, man. The shit is fragile. Like if our power grid went down or something, like a Chinese transformer decided to get hacked or blown or whatever, we've heard about 6-8 weeks longer without power in your area, dude. You have no idea how fast shit changes, man. It's crazy.
Yeah, what do they call it? Kind of in the prepper world, like 9 days to anarchy or something like that. Where it's like
I
seeing the
believe it.
world done within 9 days of power being out, like people
Yeah.
killing each other, and because if you think about that too, it's like all the people on life support, all the people that like
Yeah.
need power to just live.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's scary to think about, man.
Well, even some of the cell towers were down around the house, and I didn't have cellular. You'd have bars, a couple bars, but you couldn't really make a phone call. You could get a text, but they were in and out. It's just everything. If you're going to think this through and try to be prepared a little bit, I mean, literally think of everything. Think of how you're going to communicate with the family. If I'm traveling and shit happens, are you gonna stay here at the house? Because my plan is to try to get back here. And then if you have to go somewhere, what's the communication? It just all those things, dude. A lot of people have been through hurricanes before and they prepared, but a lot of people just don't know what the fuck. They were losing their minds.
Yeah. And then you got areas like mine, dude, where there's like zero natural disasters. Like we got a little bit of heat, but you don't have anything, right? Like when it comes to natural disasters. So, I know we've talked a lot about preparation, or, we've talked a little bit about it on the podcast, but to be honest with you, like, fuck, dude, I would be so fucked,
Well, you should have a way to get, some type of power, right, for a little while. You should definitely have a way to get water. We talked about that because you got a swimming pool. So, okay, you got a little bit of a handicap there, but man, if you had to travel or, what about food? You got 2 weeks worth of food.
Yeah.
And then if the power goes out, do you still have 2 weeks worth of food? It's, it's kind of a wake up call,
Yeah. Yeah. Then you think about pets, it's like, dog, just all that little shit. Yeah, dude, craziness, man. So, man. So then switching gears, you were telling me about, what'd you call it? The Maha movement?
Make America healthy again. That's what they're calling it.
Okay.
Yeah. And so I was listening to the Rogan podcast, and there's that guy, he owns Ways to Wellness. And so bring him somebody. And he testified in front of Congress and was talking about kind of what big pharma looks like. And, not so much laying the blame straight on them, but, is it really serving our citizens right? Are we really headed in the direction we want to go? And one of the things that, is a big thing that they were talking about now, and it's literally going to bankrupt our country, at least in part, right, with everything else. But they're trying to extend the prescribing and the coverages for Ozempic and the semaglutide type, different analogs and drugs, or they're all basically semaglutide, just a little twist and different dosing and whatever. But covering not only pretty much everyone, but kids now, right? So if you can imagine, man, we've talked about semaglutide before on this podcast, and I've used it. I've helped a lot of people on it, but for the government to say, yes, we're going to extend coverage so that your child, your 6-year-old, can get semaglutide prescription covered by taxpayers, because the state is, everything's in such bad shape. And, I can go into the parenting aspect, and you can blame the food and all that, but now we have obesity rates going crazy, and then childhood obesity skyrocketing. It's just a sad state of affairs, man. It's scary. So, if Trump gets elected, if he appoints RFK Jr. and he's going to try to take on the industrial complex, the industrial food complex, and some of big pharma to make America healthy again. It's just interesting, man. I hope that that's the genesis of change, or the beginning of change. Because there's still money to be made. You can still make money in those with those companies, pharma, all that stuff. But extending coverages, it's just a sick system, and it's that I think is the apex of it. I mean, when we're talking about putting kids on semi-glutide because they're so fucking fat,
Yeah.
it just blows my mind,
Yeah, and anybody that's watching, listen to this, so you can fact check me on this because I'm just trying to go off memory, so I'm sure I'll be off a little bit on the stats. But heard the other day that it's something like 74% of our youth that would be you know close to or qualifying, like military age, can't even mentally and physically meet the requirements for the military. So
Yeah.
that's number. Like you start looking at this, it's like like if we end up in a World War III scenario, we need soldiers. Like, what does that do? Right? Like that's
Well,
scary.
the good thing is, it probably won't be a body war. It won't be a meat grinder war. It's more drone and, probably. But yeah, I mean, when I was I went in the military in like late or, end of the 80s. And out of my platoon or squadron, whatever it was, there was one kid that went to fat camp. One kid. Now, I can't even imagine, dude. You can't even pass the basics. And the basics were ridiculous. Like, can you run a mile and a half in, 15 minutes or something? I mean, it's crazy. Can you do 20 push-ups? It was pretty weak.
Yeah.
And, you know, there were people that couldn't do it then, but very few. There was
Yeah.
always one or two.
Yeah. Because if you look at like kids, and again, please, anybody watching, listen, let's go fact check because I might be screwing these up. I'm just trying to go off memory here, but
It
I've
was an
seen some
extraordinarily large number.
Yeah, it was something like 50% of kids
Yeah.
are either obese or overweight, and then something like it was a crazy number that I recently heard, and this was from a doctor that was on a podcast, but it was something close to or around 20% are either type 2 diabetic or pre-diabetic. And then if you go, rewind 100 years ago, you'd have a pediatrician that would go their whole career with maybe seeing one child their whole entire career that might establish, type 2 diabetes. Not have, I mean, it's sad seeing what we're seeing, so something's got to change, but we'll see if it's, I remember Michelle Obama, like this was in the first term, President Obama gets elected and, her's the new first lady, and I thought it was really cool what she was doing. Right. So because she was the first person that I saw, at least at like the presidential, level, that immediately started talking about diet, not activity or just activity, but about diet. But that lasted like a day. And then you could tell she got re-educated and shut down. And then she just shifted everything she was saying before to just workout activity. It's like you're allowed to talk about that, but you are not allowed to talk about food,
Yeah.
And I look, everybody can have their different opinions on Ozempic and stuff, but I look at like, okay, instead of focusing on, okay, like you're sick, let's now figure out what to do. It's like, okay, let's talk about prevention. And
Yeah.
food is such a huge component of that.
Yeah. This came up too. They were talking about how much money of, debit, not EBT cards and food stamps and the government support is spent on fucking soda, right? It's in
Yep.
the,
It's like the number one line item, isn't it? For
it
like food
is.
stamps? Yeah.
It is. And not close. It's not close either. And that's shocking, man. That's shocking. So my tax money is going for people to buy Coca-Cola, and that's turning them fat and sick and diabetic, which in turn is costing more of my tax money to support them and get them coverage, right, throughout their whatever, because we're covering, they're going to go through the medical system, they're going to get sick, they're going to require more care, which are going to, get all cost of insurance to go up. So they're getting the American taxpayers getting, getting hammered all over the place on that because, people are sicker and they're going to require more care. And then we're going to approve more drugs. Those Epic, it's $1,600 a month or whatever it is to cover it. It's just fucking insane, man.
Yeah.
It is really insane. And I was a fat kid, right? So there was support from like third, fourth, and fifth grade. I was a fat kid in school. because my grandparents were from the Depression era, and they raised me for the most part. My grandma was a fucking baker from Germany, and so they fed me. I was a big kid. And that, and I've told this story before, but then one day I was like, all right, why am I fat? I'm the only fucking fat. What the fuck is going on? And I played sports and did everything, and finally figured it out. I asked enough people. I started going around to everybody in my life, and I was like, why am I fat, man? What do I do? And it came back to pretty much just eat less, buddy. Just kind of eat less, and your football coach is going to tell you to eat more, but you don't need to eat more. You're fat. So just eat less, keep doing what you're doing, and it worked. Eventually, I started eating less, and less cake. I remember a guy tell me, well, instead of having a piece of cake and putting in a cereal bowl and putting cereal on it and milk, he's like, why don't you just have a piece of fruit or eat a sandwich and call it good? And it worked. But that was my pivot point, right? That was my journey of like, okay, well, I'm going to figure this out. I don't want to look like that. I want to look like this. And then, that led into, a few years later, I meet this bodybuilder guy, and I was like, okay, that's what I want to look like, and really started it. But that was really the genesis of me wanting to figure out, well, why am I different? Why am I fat? Why I don't want to be like this anymore. So how do I change it? Then, if I was whatever, if it was fast forward a year from now or 2 years from now and we approve Ozempic, well, what if a physician, my mom or grandma or whoever was concerned, and, well, you're fat, Timmy, you're pre-diabetic, let's put you on this drug. I still wouldn't have known shit about nutrition. I wouldn't have had to figure it out. My appetite would have been crashed for 3-4 months. But I still would have learned nothing. And then as soon as I came off of it, catastrophe. I mean, so it's not even really going to fix the problem. It's not, because it's not like, okay, we're going to put this kid on Ozempic, but you got to go through this fucking mandatory program where we're going to teach you how to eat. And that means you're going to eat 3 meals of high protein. And this is why you don't want to eat this. And we can't even agree on that fucking information. You go on Twitter, fit Twitter, and, you have fucking all kinds of clowns still arguing about stuff, thinking fruit's bad and dangerous and it's going to kill you and all this shit. So it's bad, man. But I don't think prescribing drugs is the answer. I mean, like you said, it's more prevention, but how do we get there?
Yeah, it's I'm not one that has faith in the quote unquote system. Even if RFK, I mean, look, if anybody can maybe do it, those two can do it, because I don't think either of them are afraid of assassination, and like they understand the consequences of battling against $1 trillion industry and what the consequences are there. But but then from there, it's like, okay, at some point, people got to take self-responsibility. And we've talked about this a lot, but like, the physicians that, we know that we're friends with, they all self-admit that, hey, like during medical school, we had, maybe a max, like an absolute max of maybe 8 hours of actual like nutrition training. Everything is just, okay, you have this, you treated it with this pill, this protocol, right? Like there is no, so we can't trust our doctors when it comes to, and I shouldn't, just speaking in generalizations, there are some great doctors, right?
Yeah.
But then from there, it's like, okay, at some point, it's your body. I both overcame that, being obese, overweight, but we both had to educate ourselves and go out there and do the work. So yeah, I mean, I have a tough time on this one, because I understand why the food companies get blamed, and I'm not saying they're not to blame, but at the same point, I'm not going to allow people to not take on that personal responsibility of, hey, you chose to put this bullshit in your mouth.
Right.
Oh
yeah, 100%. Like the one big famous argument I was in about seed oils, those guys who think, well, if we have seed oils, this is what's causing everything. It's like, man, do you really think if fucking Hot Pockets were made with olive oil that people still wouldn't be fucking fat? No, dude. I mean, do I think that seed oils are great for you? Probably not. But what food should you be eating daily and on a consistent basis that's soaked or cooked in oil? Zero anyway. You're already fucking up. So it's not really, you can blame, everybody wants a bad guy to blame. I actually think, it might be a good thing to get pressure and those have those guys in and pressure those systems. But what I think really, what really needs to happen too is the taxpayer as a fucking taxpayer, really getting vocal and saying, man, I'm sick of paying taxes for people, that are on assistance, that are spending the majority of that money on fucking sugar water. And then it's costing all of us more because those people, not necessarily just them, but then that makes them some of the most unhealthy of the population. That also is costing us so much more money. When does that end? Because if I'm taking personal responsibility and I'm taking care of myself, and I'm not costing, the health insurance system and causing all these problems, and I'm not a $10 million customer for life. Well, shouldn't I have cheaper health insurance rates? Yeah, I should. I should. I don't know what needs to happen. Maybe all of it. Maybe pressure from all sides. But essentially, it comes down to the person and the will, right? Because it doesn't matter if we have European version Fruit Loops or American version. If you're eating a box a day and you're already 85% body fat, it doesn't matter. You're fucked.
So then, speaking of that, and I know I'm kind of detouring from what we were originally starting to talk about with the Maha movement, but okay, if it comes down to self-responsibility, because what I have found is, especially right now with where we're at, because it's not just the institutions, now it's influencers
Yeah.
just spitting out so much bullshit, whether you want to call it malinformation, or whatever the shit language is confusing these days anymore, right? But with that, it's like, okay, polarization is what gets attention. So you got all these influencers. Like, maybe some of them actually believe some of the shit they're saying, but I think most of them, they just know, hey, the more polarizing I am, like like we talked about some of the shit that Paul Saladino said, it's like,
Yeah.
if you abided by everything that he talks about, it's like you'd be Bubble Boy, right? Like
Yeah.
you wouldn't be existing in life essentially.
Then you find yourself bringing 20 coconuts on a fucking airplane flight, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So then it's like, okay, you got all these quote unquote influencers that have big followings that seem to be intelligent. So it can be hard to self-educate, and
Oh
probably
yeah.
more so today than ever before. So how do you, because not everybody can just, I have the blessing of knowing you. You're like, Jim, what's up? Tell me what to do here. But not, so how can people effectively go out there and self-educate when there's just
Well,
so much
dude, and to your credit again, I told you this before, but you're a guy that experiments on yourself, right? Like when you wanted to go vegan, I was like, okay, man. But you're like, yeah, I got a plan. I'm going to test this, and here's what the metrics are going to look like, right? And then you ran that experiment, and then you analyzed the data and go, yeah, man, this wasn't what I was expecting. Then you switched, right? Okay, I'm going to run this experiment. Okay, how do I measure it? Do I feel good? Is my body composition, my energy? Okay, shit. What can I change? What can I tweak? And no matter who you're listening to or whatever, because I can't give me, I'm not going to give you an answer because I don't know it. But I can help you set up an experiment, because I don't know what foods you like. I don't know what's sustainable for you, whatever. But it's setting up an experiment and fucking testing it and then measuring it. Did it work for me? Like I recently got back into oatmeal, right? I fucking love oatmeal. And so this is my conclusion with oatmeal. My mouth loves oatmeal, but the rest of my body does not. I get fucking gassy. It's my stomach's bloated, all that. I don't really feel the carbs from it. I have to eat like double the amount to feel the carbs from it. Okay, man. I've learned this lesson many times, and I'll relearn it again. I do much better with rice. That's the experiment. But gee whiz, this guy on the internet said that rice sucks, and I'm going to get diabetes. I should do oats because it's slower acting. And okay, well, how did it make me feel? How did it work in my body? And so it comes down to having, setting up an experiment, running it, and then analyzing what you've learned from it and pivoting and twisting and adjusting it, right? Because it's not only like I could say eat meat and vegetables, add some carbohydrates when you need it, whatever. But what's sustainable with you? What foods do you like? What foods can't you stand? There's all those factors too. So experiment with it. Don't get bought into this tribal thought like, oh, I'm going to be a carnivore. Okay, do you have some serious medical problem because you're just going to fucking eat meat for the rest of your life? That's your answer. Okay, maybe it works for you. I don't know. Try it. See what you feel. And I think that's where people falter because they won't commit to it, or if they do, then they don't learn the lesson from it. They don't analyze the data and pivot.
Yeah, and I think some of this, probably a lot of this too, is just if you take the time to think, which is harder to do today because we're, not conditioned to really sit there and think. We're just told what is. But a lot of this is common sense. If you really think about it, it's like for the most part, like we kind of know what's healthy. We know,
Yeah.
It's like, okay, like I look at this, okay, well, if this shit didn't exist when my grandparents were here, like an answer, like, and this isn't 1,000% true because, okay, I don't know if my great grandparents had whey protein during their
Right.
time. But when it comes to actual foods that I eat, I'm like, hey, if my great grandparents didn't eat it, I'm just not going to eat it. So it's like one ingredient, whole foods, just shit like that,
Well,
where.
yeah, you can't, like, if you want to just general advice, it comes down to what we've talked about this before: single ingredient food. That's it. Just do that. If you just do that, you're probably going to find the answer. It's really hard to overeat on that, right? It's really hard to overeat on doing that. And that's what, but that's like everything, dude. When we talk about building muscle, when we talk about changing your body, it comes back to the fucking basics, right? The simple shit. All right. Are you progressing? I don't know. Let me see your logbook. Well, you don't even have a logbook. Saying you related that to business. Well, how's your business doing? It's okay. All right. Well, can I see the sheet? Can I see the accounting sheet? Well, I don't have one. Okay. Well, I don't even know where to start with you, right? I don't, if there's, you can't even tell me there's nothing. And that's where people fall off. They get that, and then they get diluted into some easy answer like, well, I'll just eat meat then, or I'll just eat low carb. Okay, man, there's, a billion fat people eating low carb right now. What's the data? Let me see let me see what you ate for the last 3 weeks. Well, I don't have that. I don't want to do that. Okay. Well, then you don't want it. It comes down to they don't want to accept the simple, boring truth, the time proven methods, and then they look for something easier. And when you go that way, it just never works. It never works out. I think that's the easy button that people look for. That's why these weirdo diets have been popularized, right? Because people just want something easy.
Yeah. And for me, dude, it's to be, because I like, at least what I have found is consistency pretty much in all things seems to be key. So then it's okay, like how can I simplify this? Because and I've allowed myself to go down this whole biohacking crap, and and not saying that it's crap. Hey, maybe for some people a lot of this stuff's great, but I found it's like, hey man, if I make sure my sleep's on point, if I make sure my hormones are balanced, consistently resistance training, got the consistently eating the right foods with the right macros, and then for me, I like to walk, so I get in my daily steps, which is for me a minute. As long as I get in 12,500 a day, goal is 20,000 a day, but there's some days I can't do that. So
Yeah.
but it's like, dude, like I hit those things, like fucking life is amazing, I'm feeling great, energy is great. What is your thoughts of impact of biohacking? Is it like, because my theory on this is that's like the 1% of optimization that people are chasing to avoid the 99% of just the basics that are the rocks that actually make the difference. I could be wrong. Correct me if you think I'm wrong.
It's majoring in the minors. That's what it is. Like, I had a guy that got the Monster Maker program from me, right? And he looks over and he goes, how come you don't have any adductor and glute specific training? I'm like, what do you mean? Like fucking butt raises? Yeah. Okay. Did you do the workout yet? Well, no, I haven't. I'm just looking at it. And, I had so-and-so's program and we were doing this and this. I go, okay, just do me a favor, man. Do the program for 2 weeks. And then you and I will talk again. 2 weeks go by. He didn't even set up a time to talk. He texted me. He goes, okay, I get it now. And, I'm not going to leave it at that. Okay, well, what did you get? What do you mean? What do you get? You got it. And he's like, I got it, man. Lesson learned. I was like, okay, but what does that mean? He's like, yeah, they're all fucking sore. Everything's sore. So, yeah, I don't need them. Exactly. You don't need to do that shit if you're doing fucking, pendulum squats or hack squats heavy, heavy enough to failure. You don't need to do that. Now, if you have, you're trying to build up a specific area, you have a muscle imbalance, or sure, all that. But if you're just going in and fucking curling with a straight bar fucking heavy, you don't need to do 18 different weirdo movements and activate your bicep and, stretch this and then have your leg behind you and all this other shit and all these weird, shortcut tricks to get you there if you're just doing the right shit. And I think that's what biohacking for the most part is. People are looking for a way to get around from just doing the basic boring shit that actually fucking works and nobody wants to do. Because, quite frankly, some of it just sucks, right? It sucks to walk into leg day and look at the pendulum squat machine and go, fuck, you're going to kick my ass today. I'm not going to walk out the same person I am right now. And I know it. That sucks. It's easier to go do extensions and go do a fucking abductor machine, do a couple butt raises and go, oh yeah, that was a good workout. Was it? Did you really hack your way around that? I don't know. That's what I think. All these, all this shit that we've came up with and we've tried them all, dude. How many things have we tried? We've tried everything, and me, and I've tried experiments. I've run experiments on all this, a lot of shit. And it always comes back to, damn, all right, if I just would have weighed my food for the last 3 weeks, all of this shit wouldn't have mattered. Or if I just would have got sleep, or if I would have been hydrated when I walked in the gym that day, and I think for the most part, all this biohacking stuff is all bullshit.
Yeah.
You're optimizing for the 1%. Yeah. But what got you up to the 90% range? Well, the basic shit that you should be doing that you're probably not anyway. So yeah, I think it's just people wanting that easy button, man. They want a shortcut. They don't want to go through the fucking boring pain and the consistency of doing the same shit for years on end.
Yeah. And I get it where, man, you got some of these influencers out there that are such good salespeople. They're so good at influence, they're massive influencers because they're so good at influencing human behavior. I have a good friend of mine that just recently came to me and, she's been following this, one guy, he's not a doctor, but owns like a, I don't know, optimal health clinic, whatever.
I hope that you're thinking of the same person that I'm about to.
Probably. He claims that he was a biologist, but not a doctor.
Same guy. Yeah. Please tell me it's about the whey protein.
Well, no. So she was freaked out because she was like, look, I've been following this guy. She's like, I'm afraid to even drink water now.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm like, dude, you're fine. Right. And look,
there's iridium or whatever it is. Yeah.
Yeah. There's some of the things that he does where I'm like, yeah, dude, like he makes sure people sleep's right, make sure that their macros are right, make sure that their hormones are balanced, deficiencies like magnesium or, whatever. But then from there, I'm like, okay, like what is the dude selling? Well, he's got some magic wand that re-ionizes your water. I'm like, dude, you're fine. Just like the stress that you are causing yourself by thinking that water is bad for you is causing more damage to you than just drinking the fucking water, right? But I get how because I've been, and you've had to set me straight a few times, right? Because I get how easy it is to be influenced by these people because they seem passionate, they seem to be, have a lot of conviction, they seem to be knowledgeable and very believable, and it's easy to get sucked down that path.
Well, said shilly hack snake oil salesman just now. I've been seeing these ads on Instagram. He's selling some fucking overpriced amino tablet that I first heard about it fucking years ago, and it was on our private bodybuilding board, and we fucking skewered this guy because they're saying, oh, you need to pay 8 times as much for these these special amino acids because they do this and this and this. Well, as opposed to what? Fucking whey protein? Yeah, but those are, that's different. They act different in your body. Like, okay, so you're telling me L-leucine from this is different than an L-leucine from that. Yeah, okay, you're fucking wrong. Get the fuck out of here. It's not. And so this guy is selling these aminos again and they're triple. They're not even. I think they're more than that. They're like 10x price, or more for these fucking pills. And then in his ad, he's like, yeah, whey protein's a waste. When you drink whey protein, man, it just turns into glucose. It turns into sugar. Sugar's bad in your body. Well, that could be possible. Yeah. If you're in a situation where you're out of glucose, you're at the gym, whatever, you're running a race, whatever, and your body needs glucose and you ingest anything with a high bolus of amino acids like whey protein gets your bloodstream, yeah, it's going to convert to glucose. How do you prevent that? Well, you use the product properly, right? Nobody said to fucking drink, chug whey protein when you're running a race and you need glucose. Like, what do we do in the gym when we chug aminos? Well, there's fucking carbohydrates with them.
Yeah.
Why are there carbohydrates with them? So that the aminos get used as aminos. I mean, is it possible that whey protein, a lot of it turns into glucose? Sure. But it really depended on the physiology at the time. It depends on what you're doing, and how you use it. People, there's a partial truth in there. And then he hooks you in. Oh, okay, that's why. My aminos aren't even being used as aminos. Okay, well then fucking eat a steak. You don't need a goddamn, overpriced amino pill. Then eat a steak. You want a time release protein that's not going to turn to glucose? Eat a steak. Then don't use whey protein, or take some carbohydrates with your whey, or some fat, or don't use it when you're in a position where you're demand for glucose. And so that's the latest thing that I saw him, and I'm sure he's going to make a fucking killing because he's very good at what he does. He's a good snake oil salesman.
Yep. Yeah, there's a lot of dudes getting rich, man.
It's just like, same like, oh, don't eat a pound of meat because your body won't use it all. Get the fuck out of here, right? My body doesn't know what to do with 100 grams of protein that are slowly digested over fucking 8 hours more. Okay, what are you selling me? What's the hack here, buddy? But yeah, it's very, we've said this many times before, but I spend more time helping people to educate them or to kind of correct their thinking from what they've learned on the internet that's complete bullshit, and deprogram them. And it's back to the same thing. Well, let's just go back to what we know fucking works. And that's what you should test. And when you test it and you find it and it works, don't fucking change it. Stay on it. Keep doing that for years. That's how you change. That's the secret. It's not sexy. And the secret is there's no secret.
Yeah, I've found kind of 2 red flags to spot if somebody just snake oil salesman, they're selling you bullshit, or if there's somebody that potentially could be a trustworthy source. Okay, number one, if they speak in like very high level certainties, because this shit's more nuanced. Like you just said, hey, with whey protein, yeah, it could do that if you don't use it properly, but here's the ways to properly use it depending on the situation. Yeah. Like, I'm there like, okay, I found that experts understand that there's nuance and they're not just going to sit there and say, oh, sugar is poison, right? Carbohydrates, like there's going to be, hey, it could be in this situation, right? And then the secondary thing is if they're not willing to debate experts with opposing views to theirs.
Yeah.
That's always a red flag.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Or, it's misinformation. Well, I'm not even going to be exposed to misinformation. Okay. Yep. Sure. Just like banning speech, and there's more racial slurs on Twitter more than ever. Well, if somebody's actually a fucking racist and is a Nazi, is actually a Nazi or whatever you're going to call them, I'd rather know about it than not. So let them say that. The sunshine is the ultimate truth, right? And so I'd rather know about that person and see that's actually the way they are, and then have everybody else hear that and realize how stupid that is, or how narrow that viewpoint is. That's the way to really suss that out, right? That's the way to have people kind of learn about it and go, oh, okay, well, that's wrong. I don't want to do that. Rather than, oh, you can't hear it. If you hear it, it's dangerous. If you hear it, it's going to convert you. You're too stupid to think for yourself. It's just, it's crazy to me, man. It's crazy.
Yeah.
But that's how we get in this situation where, like like everything that we learned from the fucking vaccine, right?
Yeah. Yep. Yep. Trust the science, not
The
science,
science.
not the scientific
To
method,
question
but the
Fauci is
science
to
that we own.
question science.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep. Scientism's become its own religion, man. All
Yeah.
right. So then, all right, we were talking about the Maha movement. What do you think the probability is? And this is just us shooting the shit, but like, do you think that they're, I mean, fuck, dude, like, what do you think the probability is that Trump even gets elected at this point?
Man, I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful right now. I was seeing excerpts of Wine Mom's debate or Wine Mom's interview last night with the guy on Fox, and Jesus Christ, I I can't think that somebody watched that and goes, yeah, that's who I want sitting at a table talking to Putin to say, hey, you need to get the fuck out of Ukraine. We're done. We're done with the bullshit. We don't need World War III, whatever it is. I can't believe that you would want her representing the United States in fucking anything in the world, much less taking care of our people at home. It astounds me. I get the Trump hate. I understand how people feel about him, but there's so much more at stake, I believe, than just feelings about a guy. I just everything that she does and says, I just go, fuck, you're so unqualified. I don't know how we're here. I don't know how we're here. So I think there's a lot of positive. If you think that's positive, I think there's a lot of positive movement for Trump. If people get out and vote, I think he's got a good chance, man.
Yeah, dude, if you would have asked me that question right when Biden announced that he was going to be running, and Kamala announced her candidacy for it, I was much more hopeful that Trump would win at that point in time. I've been amazed at how quickly her reputation, like, because dude, like, I'm not much of a political guy. I mean, I vote, and I have, and always tell people who I'd prefer and whatever want in the office, but I'm not like, I got a ton of friends that are of all parties, dude, right? But dude, even all my friends that are the family members on the Democrats, like, none of them liked her as VP. But then it's been crazy with their marketing efforts, like how quickly people went from not standard to now being like hardcore supporters. And then just from an objective standpoint, like looking at from a marketing standpoint, like getting their different YouTube ads, like her marketing team is doing a much better job at speaking to just the kind of general population than Trump's, at least from my observation. I could be wrong, but I'm like, shit, like, it's like, I'm like, dude, I don't know at this point, man. I think she might fucking win it. I don't want that to happen, but I'm like, dude, with her marketing team and just how quickly, sentiments changing, for her kind of fan base, I'm like, I don't know if I've ever seen anything like this, that rapid of a change.
Well, it's crazy too, because one of my daughter's friends who's over, and we were talking, well, reproductive rights, and I go, okay, cool. What does that mean though? Well, like in Florida, you can't get an abortion. I was like, really? Well, let's look that up. So we looked up the current information as of the day. This was like 2 weeks ago. Looked up the current information. Okay, can I get an abortion in Florida? Yeah, you can. Pretty much under 6 weeks and under, anybody can get one, easy as pie. Okay. Well, if it goes past that, up to 15 weeks, if this happened, if you can still get one. All right, man. I mean, it's still a little bit restrictive, but you can get it, right? There's some stipulations. And then anybody, Kermit the Frog, can roll into CVS and get a Plan B pill. Age, nothing. Anybody can go in and get a Plan B pill. So then to say, well, okay, well, you can get one. Yeah, but I don't want any. Well, then it changes. Well, I don't want any restrictions. Well, I think there was restrictions before, weren't there? I mean, it was just free reign. And so we Googled that. Well, there were still stipulations. There was cutoff dates, even 5-6 years ago, like late term and all this stuff. I go, just some of the nuances have changed. We have a ballot on Florida to change the state constitution to open it up even more. I particularly support that. Okay, yeah, let's open it up more. So just in case you miss that 6 weeks or something, you have a little bit more, variability. And I think that should be your choice or whatever. But just that it's just interesting to see that version. Well, you can't even, her telling me you can't even get an abortion in Florida right now. You can, but where did you hear that? Well, whatever, TikTok or who knows. But that was the opinion. Like she was ready to swear an oath that was true. It's not even close, And so I think that happens a lot of these. It's like, well, did you, like you see it, on social media. What one of Kamala's campaigns or what one of her, promises or policies did you like? Which one of her things do you think she's going to change that you support? And we get the highlight reel, but all of them are just like fucking absolutely no answer. So it's weird, man, how people get polarized like that. Based, maybe they saw an ad, maybe they saw a hit piece. I don't know, but it's pretty sad to me. I mean, just logical thinking. I don't think it's logical thinking,
I think if anybody just sat down and we're like, okay, how have the last 4 years of life been versus the 4 before that? Like, it's not like we don't have a test of, it's not like these are new candidates that we've never seen before. It's like, that's a pretty, decent comparison. I think Trump learned a lot, so there might be differences if he gets in this time. Okay, to be fair, Kamala wasn't really head of the reins, but neither was Joe Biden definitely isn't either. So my guess is it'll be more of the next 4 years will look just like these last 4 years if she gets in, because I don't think either of them are going to be running the show. And I'm sure Trump will have limited control too. If you really start, I always look at this of like, you start breaking this down, and I think the president probably has more cultural influence than anything else, but it's like when you got this empire, they're not going to let somebody just in there for a 4-year stint of time to fucking shift and control and impact in any influential way the path the empire wants the empire to go.
Well, and then, we can talk about deep state, and that's anytime that you've mentioned, if you say deep state in the wrong room, man, people think you're fucking crazy as shit. But, what is that defined? Really? Well, it's defined that you have these guys that are working for whatever, they're military, they're, senators or whatever, and then they go to work for they go to work for contractors, right? They go to work for Raytheon or Boeing or whatever. And it's this whole system. That's the deep state. There's a lot of control with that. That's what's really controlling the reins of a lot of things, right? Deep state is in, industrial food complex. It's in pharma, because these people get rewarded by, very favorable paying positions post office. And that comes with a lot of influence and power, right? And that's the deep state. That's the part of people that we do not elect having all this control and power. That's the real threat. That's the real problem. And, I think a president, like you said, a president has a lot of influence on the attitude and the positivity and the markets and the overall kind of well-being, maybe. But is anything really big like that going to change? Yeah, man, not as long as we have those issues.
Yeah. I mean, the last dude that attempted to try JFK, I mean, you see what you get, if you don't act inside your little box, dude, there's repercussions, and they're not afraid to execute on them.
Well, I do think there's going to be there'd be a massive change in between those two people being elected in the economy for, I mean, day and night. I think there's I don't know, it could either way. There's a lot to be worried about.
Yeah, it's going to be what it's going to be, man.
That's right. No, I know I'm hitting back tomorrow. That's all I can tell you.
Yep, that's right. Yep, I love it, dude. All right, man. Well, any lasting thoughts before we wrap this bad boy up? Now we kind of covered a lot of ground here today.
Yeah, we talked some shit today, but it comes down to all the same shit that we're saying, man. Right? Like we always talk about, and it's really this core of, personal responsibility. The simple truth isn't real sexy. The secret is there's no secret, right? It's just the consistency, the hard work, the logical thinking, trying to analyze it yourself to see if it works or not, and then minimizing the external influence, especially from people where you don't really know their motives, or you do and you still fall for it. But it's the same thing. It's really comes back to the same stuff that we keep preaching.
Yep, 100%. All right. Well, those watching and listening, as always, we truly appreciate you. Truly appreciate your support. Keep crushing it, and we'll see you next time. Peace.